Welcome to the show. This is Daily Tips that may or may not help you. My name is Arielle Nissenblatt, and if you're watching us, you are not seeing Ned Donovan on the screen. You are seeing Orli Segal, who is our guest tipper of the month of August. As you may or may not know, on Daily Tips that may or may not help you, every Wednesday we have a guest tipper who shares their insights, their knowledge of the world, and we get to learn from them, and then we get to go on our day, and then of course the next day back to me and Ned. So for this month, we are so excited to have Orli Segal on the show. We're going to get to know her, we're going to get to know about her tips, and we're going to get to know about like what makes her tick. So let's get into that. Orli, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited to have you on the show because you and I have been friends for a long time. We go way back. It's interesting to talk to you in a semi-professional environment. Of course, we're not buttoned up. We're not, behind, fancy desks or anything like that, but we are using our best, most professional language. And today we're going to get into what you do for a living and how that affects the way that you live your life and some of the tips that you use to make your life better and to make other people's lives better. So first, get us started by telling us a bit about who you are and how you spend your days.
My name is Orli. I live in Brooklyn. For work, I am a pediatric nurse practitioner. I work in a primary care setting with kids aged 0 to about 22.
Wow.
And for not work things, I love being outside. I love playing sports and hiking, cycling, spending time with friends, and laughing.
That's beautiful. Most of your tips this month, as people will come to find out, are related to medicine and or what we come to find, the intersection of medicine and mottos. And we're not going to go through each of your tips individually because we want to make sure that folks can tune into your episodes on every Wednesday throughout this month. But we will kind of get into your life philosophy. So as I mentioned, you have 4 phrases that guide the tips that you're going to give throughout this month. When did you start thinking in these terms where, something becomes a problem and you have a mantra that you can say in your head that either calms you down or shifts your perspective a little bit?
Funny, I didn't know I was a mantra person until this podcast.
You are,
here I am.
for sure.
But here I am saying mantras. I always have been drawn to sort of meaningful quotes. And I remember, just kind of like picking things up along the way, even when I was younger. And going back to them as a way to kind of ground myself. And in particular, I think, your question of like how do, with medicine and mottos, how does it all sort of blend together where, yes, a lot of medicine is science, but so much of it is the person's narrative and listening to them and solving the puzzle with them in the moment. And oftentimes it's a person you've never met before. And I think, I don't know if some of these mottos I think I end up saying out loud, but some of them I think I say in my head, and also reminding myself that I'm still pretty new to the medical field. And so I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot more along the way.
Let's back up for a moment and talk a bit about your career. You mentioned that you've only been in medicine for a little bit. You're still relatively new to it. How did you get there, and what was the journey like?
Sure. So I would say I had a pretty atypical path. So I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner, and I would say I semi-career pivoted. I was not pre-med in college. I had never taken an anatomy class before. And I knew since I was pretty young that I wanted to go into medicine, but I also knew I had a lot of other interests. And I sort of felt that I wanted to pursue those interests. And if at the end of the day, I still had this itch for medicine, that would be the most telling sign. So I kind of did that. I didn't do anything medical in college. And for about the first 5 years after, I didn't do that either. And then I found my way to NP school. And I've been an NP since 2022. So not that long.
What is your favorite part day to day of your job, if you can ball it down into one thing?
Sometimes this almost feels selfish, but I think I get to learn every day. I learn so much from kids. I think they have just this like beautiful outlook on the world. And I often feel like I'm learning more, or they're teaching me more than I am teaching them. And you just get to be silly and play all day. I think kids have this beautiful sense of curiosity alongside a wild sense of levity. And those are sort of two qualities that I really admire and try to incorporate in my own life as well.
Do you have a tip for anybody who is interested in pivoting careers, or somebody who's going from a non-medical field into something very, very medical, something where they might need to take prerequisites?
I think there were many moments where I was unsure or it was really challenging. I think if it's something you want to do and you can always see your end goal in mind, do it. Sometimes sort of the light at the end of the tunnel looks way, really swinging back into tunnels here, uh, looks a lot farther than you think. Uh, if it's something you're really passionate about, do it. I think what kept me going in particular during the schooling portion of it, I am a horrific test taker, and science does not come easily to me. And I had to work really hard at both those things. And what was always really reassuring was our clinical time, any time I got to spend with patients. And so just kind of, if you're pivoting and it's in medicine or not in medicine and it's a long journey to get there, just kind of reminding yourself along the way, like, what is the thing that brings me joy while I'm doing it? And even now, right? Like, everyone has parts of their jobs that they don't like, the admin side, the charting side, whatever it is. And just keep reminding yourself of the moments that bring you joy, and the things that you look forward to. And I think at the end of the day, it's really all worth it.
How do you keep up with the latest and greatest in your field of medicine?
This is definitely an area that I think I need to do better in that sometimes I find it hard to sort of go through a full day of work and then like read a bunch of research articles or
Right.
something, or listen to a medical or science-y podcast, because so much of my brain when I'm not at work wants to sort of shut off and not be there. But aside from like following different doctors or medical things on Instagram, one thing I find really helpful is I maybe to an annoying aspect. If any coworkers are listening to this, call me out. Is I ask a lot of questions. I ask my coworkers who have been there for longer, been doing this for longer than I have, or if they're newer too. I like to see how people would approach the situation differently, if I should have done something better or looked at it from a different angle. So I think the way for now that I'm keeping up with it is asking questions. I do keep a notebook or a running list of things that I want to look up or look more into, especially as certain like virus seasons come around. We see different illnesses during different seasons. And so as we see more and more of things, I always like to make sure like, oh, I really got to know my facts on this. So yeah, I ask a lot of questions.
I think that's great. Can you imagine if I was like, okay, now, Orli, can you please give us a tip for whether or not we should vaccinate our children? Actually, let's just give this tip because we should. Go ahead.
Do you want my medical or professional or a little personal opinion on this?
All of them. Give us all of them.
My very professional opinion is vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. There is so much research and evidence that points to the extraordinary effects of vaccines.
Let's do a big pivot here and talk about your mom and your grandma, because first of all, they were vaccinated. Second of all, right? Let me confirm.
Hell yeah,
Fact
they
check.
were the first online for vaccines. They were like, load me up, baby.
Love that. Well, the reason I bring them up is because a few of your tips that folks will get to hear throughout the rest of this month, mention your mom and grandma, because they are a big part of the people that they are a big part of your mantra upbringing, if you will. Some of the mantras, some of the sayings that you abide by in your life came from them, or you have memories of them, sharing those pieces of wisdom with you. So talk to us a little bit about your mom and grandma and their impact on you as a person, as a worker, as somebody who loves to laugh.
So my mom is amazing. I'm very, very close with her. I talk to her almost every single day. And I think, there's a stereotype of worried Jewish mother. And she is not that. She is perfectly concerned at, a very well-adjusted way. And she parented us and still parents us in a very open-ended way that sort of gave us agency in the process. But obviously she imparted much of her wisdom on us, but it was never in, a like pushy way. It allowed for exploration. And even now, when I seek her advice, that's how she approaches things, with no judgment, with like open listening ears. And I think she inherited a lot of that from my grandmother, who almost exactly a year ago passed away. She was well into her 90s and pretty much living independently up until then. And she very similarly, she lived a very long and fruitful life. And she welcomed everyone, with the biggest smile and the biggest heart. But she was steadfast in her beliefs as well, and she had this sort of perfect balance of being firm in who she is and her beliefs, and also always wanting to learn more. You'll actually appreciate this. During the height of the pandemic, she was living alone in Florida. And at one point, I remember her saying to me, she goes, I feel like I'm back in college again. She took it upon herself to just constantly go to webinars. And she figured out how to do it on her own.
That's really nice.
She also figured out how to use Instacart on her own. She played things off of Spotify. She
Wow.
really evolved with the times. So both of them are people that I have and will continue to really look up to and seek guidance from.
That's awesome. Shout out to them for making you who you are. I want to talk now about your relationship with the idea of life hacks, or with tips, or with, just like things that you can do that make your life better. When I first asked you to be on the show, what was your reaction?
My first reaction was like, I don't think I have any hacks, I was like, I don't know if I have any nuggets of wisdom to offer. But and I kind of felt like even the ones that I have offered, they're very broad. Like, they're not really concrete. Like, don't turn your air conditioner off. Always keep it on, right? Like but maybe that's also I think maybe I live a lot of my life in this kind of gray area that isn't always super concrete. Because I really couldn't think of any concrete examples, and I have sort of these more I don't know what the word.
Amorphous.
Yeah, kind of out there ones, but when you dial in on them, I can offer a concrete example. So I didn't know I was a person worthy of offering tips for a month. So
You sure are.
I feel very humbled and honored to be on here.
We're excited to have you. We've had people who have done all sorts of different things. A lot of actors, because Ned, my co-host, is an actor. We've had podcasters, because I work in the podcast space. We've had a rabbi. We've had
because you
really
love
interesting
rabbis.
people. I love rabbis. Yes. We've had really interesting people, and you're our first medical person. So medical with, of course, the motto tie-in over there. And I think what's interesting about that is that obviously medicine sometimes needs to be very exact. And then, as you mentioned, a lot of your tips are broad, they're amorphous. And when you drill down, yes, they have stories to them. Yes, there are concrete examples. But ultimately, you live in this gray area, and there's a lot in the gray area. And I do think that's true about you. How do you feel about being a gray area person?
Feel pretty good about it. It's something I think I've tried to own. I think there are parts of me that are like extremely rational and logical.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there are parts of me that are like so silly and all over the place. And I actually talk about that in therapy a good amount, where I feel like I often land in this middle zone, which can sometimes actually be the most challenging for me. Um, but I think my work brain sometimes has to use this very scientific, logical piece, and I think I have like, not to toot my own horn too much, I have
Do
like
it,
pretty
toot it.
high, pretty high executive functioning. Um,
Jealous.
yeah, I'm happy to help and lend some. No, and I've sort of always been that way, um, which enables me to do a million things at once. And then there's a part of me that's like, I could tune into more of that emotional, more chill side, and there is certainly a side that's like very go with the flow, roll with the punches. I
Yeah.
like to be in scenarios where I have no idea what's about to happen, consensually. Uh, but yeah, I feel pretty good about it.
One of the things that I admire about you is that when you are tired and don't want to do something, you don't do that thing. And this sounds so obvious, but it's not a skill that everybody has. There are people that show up when they don't want to and they don't bring their full selves. Whereas I will often get a text from you and I'm never mad about this saying, "Can we rain check?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, we can because you need it and I probably need it too." And I think that's great.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that because it is really to my um only my closest friends that I feel comfortable doing
Yeah, of
that
course.
with.
Of
I
course.
like to stay very present. And I do often feel like I'm stretched thin, and it feels like I don't always know my limits. Um, and I feel really comfortable being able to say that to my nearest and dearest of like, hey, I'm actually pretty run down. Can we rain check? And knowing that it doesn't affect the friendship and anything like that.
Yeah, I love that. One more tip before we go. Actually, it's not really a tip, but in the vein of this show where we make things that are not quite tips into tips for the sake of content, I would like for you to tell the people about friend in laws.
Okay. Well, I can't take I take no credit for the term. In that I
But
think
I learned it from you, so I
yes.
give you the credit of introducing it.
Okay, in that I think I saw it on a TikTok.
Hmm.
I'm on TikTok as a follower, not as a content
Not no,
maker.
not a
Yeah,
creator.
yeah.
Yeah, this is your first time creating, right here,
No,
right now.
truly, like it is so rare that my voice is recorded on anything, or that I don't often have an audience. A friend-in-law is your close friend's close friend. So by association, you are maybe friends, but probably would never hang out one on one. But you know that you share a close friend, similar to a sister or brother in law, who's joined your family via partnership. I have, I think, a number of friend in laws, and the best part is sometimes they cross into real
Exactly.
friends. And
Exactly.
and actually you and I
Exactly.
sort of began like that where we were both shout out to Shosh. Uh, we were both at her bachelorette. And you and I knew each other but weren't very close at the time. And from then sort of we kept seeing each other and now we live in the same borough. Um, and we have, created this beautiful friendship and we started out as friend-in-laws.
And I forgot that because I had recently, you are now friend in laws with another friend of mine. And I was like, huh, We actually started that way. And I just think that's beautiful. And Tippendales, if this phrase resonates with you, the tip of the day, the extra tip of the day is to call your friend-in-laws and tell them that maybe they're crossing over into friendship territory.
I have a question for you. It's a little meta.
Okay.
Do you think everyone starts as a friend-in-law?
Interesting.
Because
there are some people that you just like meet randomly, right?
Right, but like, could, let's say, an event function as the human you were initially, something had to bring you together at some point.
There had to be something. Yes.
Right?
There's always an element that brings the friendship together. Sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's an activity,
Right.
Sometimes it's a meet cute. You never know.
Or is that just friendship?
Look, we're just having philosophical conversations here on Daily Tips that may or may not help you. And we will continue to have them throughout the month because this was just a taste of our guest tipper, Orli Segal, who will be back on Wednesday. And you heard her last week on Wednesday, and that was great. Orli, thanks for that first tip. But you have 3 more tips, so Tippendales, make sure to tune in. You can watch those tips. You can listen to those tips. You can leave us a review. You can do whatever it is to let us know that you like these tips or you hate these tips and you want to fight Orli, which I don't know how you could ever want to fight Orli, but she could take you.
I don't know if I could. Tip number 5, call your friend-in-laws.
Okay. Ah, beautiful. And your friends and your parents and anybody
and your lovers
might need lovers, of course. Orli, with that, where can people find you and follow you if they want to get in touch or have questions about becoming a pediatric nurse practitioner?
I love a good email.
Love that. Drop it.
My email is Orli, ORLI, .Segal, SEGAL, @gmail.com. You could call me or text me. I'm very responsive there. And I do have 2 forms of social media. One is Facebook. And that's
Have you heard of it?
Yeah. And that is under my name, Orli Segal. And then the other one is Instagram. And I believe my handle is or.el.se, which spells out or else, which is actually the first 2 letters in each of my names. LinkedIn. I also
That's 3, a secret 3rd thing.
I really do love snail mail, but I don't think it's the safest thing to give out my address over a podcast.
Yeah, we'll hold on that. But this is your first podcast recording, so really,
I'm
you
still
don't know
learning. Do I give my social at the end of it?
That's just, that comes last. All right, Orli, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for giving us some daily tips that may or may not help us. Can't wait to find out if these, help the people, help the Tippendales.
Thank you so very much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure and blast. And thanks for all the work that you're doing.
Aw,